Hey everybody, this is Gnarlo here. Today we're going to do something a little bit different in our EverQuesting. We don't have Dwindon on, so we are going to do a little bit of an exploration of the beginning cities. And we're going to start out here with Ak'Anon, my home city, the home of the gnomes. Y'all have seen it here before with all the boilers and the steam machines and the various chimneys popping out of the ground right here at the entrance, right past Watchman Prim and Prin. And we're going to go on in, follow down through the tunnel, zone in right past this turn, and then we're just going to wander around and explore some of the features that the city has here. And we will see you after the zone. I love the Ak'Anon music. Ak'Anon Steamfont Mountain music there. It's always so gorgeous. We'll come past this little work area. And of course, the next thing you see of Ak'Anon proper, through the pretty slanting and dangerously off-kilter pathway here, is the first gate, the main gate, fortified entranceway you have to come through into Ak'Anon itself. And if I remember right, I believe that there are... You come up on top of this wall, and I believe there may be some, like, crossbow bolts and siege engines. Like Ballista. Let's come up here and take a look. Indeed, I thought so, that there were a couple of Ballista up here that helps defend the approaches into the city. So do not think that the gnomes are pushovers just because we're tiny. We are very well defended here. And we have our Clockwork army to help defend us as well. And it's possible they may even be trained to backstab with the ballista. I'm not sure about that, but I have heard of it happening once before. Speaking of clockworks, you will notice that the gnomes are very fastidious, as we have even clockwork scrubbers and dusters in the form of great clockwork rats going around the place, keeping the trash up off the floor. And here we are on the back side of the wall. Everything constantly clicking, clicking, clacking, and clacking. Once you're through our main defenses, you reach the tunnel that leads out into the Great Green Sea. And of course, where the Priest of Discord stands. If you turn to the left here, you can take a small journey through that gap in the rock, and you come out here to a couple of merchants that I believe do... I know the ones in the back are like tailoring. Yeah, you got a Clockwork Tailor. A couple of them here that sell tailoring supplies. And of course a loom. You may wonder what some of these things are. I don't think I've ever actually explained it. Scattered all about in all the various cities and all, you find the items that you use as a craftsperson. We've talked before about the various crafting skills and all that you can do. Well, when you're doing those skills, you need to have an actual crafting bench, as it were, crafting area to do the craft work on. And this right here is for tailoring. This is a loom. And we will look at the tailor. Yep, as you see, they sell an assortment of gloves and shirts and cloth materials, sewing kit, and of course how to sew. So we are going to head back around now. I think this one here in the little entrance, I used to think he was like a fishing merchant, but I think he just sells, oh, well, there you go, he sells some spells. Gate, invisibility. We'll be visiting him, especially whenever we get up to, I think, level 4. Is that what we're looking at here? Let's take a look. Enchanter level 8. What about shielding? Enchanter level 16. What about some of the ones up top there? Gate, for instance. Yes, Enchanter level 4. So he sells a variety of what you would think of invisibility, of your general typical magic-using class spells for various things. As you see, there weren't anything there that was Enchanter-specific. There was a variety of just spells that you would expect any of them to, any of the spell-using classes to do. So we're going to continue on around the lake here until we pass once more into the stone. From here, we can make a left, and this takes us out to the seat of the government itself, the Ak'Anon Palace, where King Ak'Anon himself resides. I won't say lives, as you'll see in a moment. In this first bridge tower here that the bridgeway goes through, the walkway to the palace goes through, you got a couple of merchants. Over here you have a baker. He sells various stuff needed for, of course, the baking skill. You got spices, flour, milk, that sort of thing. The grocer here sells more general food items. You got fish, rations, down here flask of water and stuff. Your general food that you might need for adventuring and stuff. And of course the stuff that he sells that people have sold back to him. Coming on out here, up this ramp. And we continue to come on across. As you see, even we are not immune to the guards. They take their jobs very seriously. So let's come on in. We've got the Clockwork Receptionist here. Passing on beyond all the Clockwork Guards here, we come to the Great Crossroads path here in the heart of the palace. We have doors leading off in every direction. To the right here, if you go down that way, you pass a number of guards. Continue climbing up, you pass a number of guards. Eventually it leads up to the roof of the palace, and over, you can get on the roof of the palace in the Ballista. Plus there's one merchant up there. It's a merchant that sells sketches, and these sketches are the items you need to do pottery. You have to take the clay and a few other items and a sketch to one of the pottery wheels, and there you combine them all and it gives you a bowl. It gives you whatever it is you're creating. For instance, if you've got a sketch of a bowl, you'll make a bowl. If you've got a sketch of an idol, you'll make an idol, that sort of thing. Going straight ahead after you pass in, you come to a hallway with a couple items. Down there in the end, there's two doors. The left-hand door just leads to an empty room. The right-hand door leads to a room with an oven where you can do practice the baking skill. To the left is another Clockwork Guard. To the right, there is one of the Clockwork Guard spiders and a disturbing item on the ground. That seems to be a necromantic circle, and in the middle is the emblem of Norrath, who is the god of hate. You see this right here. This is something you see an awful lot over in the Dark Elf, city of Norrath. You will see there are several places in there, in some of the mage using, where you have these appears to be summoning circles on the ground with the Norrath symbol in the middle of it. Makes you think that maybe things aren't quite what you might expect inside the old Ak'Anon Palace here. Finally, turning left from the entrance, you go through this door, and you're headed more into the heart of the castle itself, heart of the palace. Just to your right is a door that leads over to a Clockwork Potter. He sells clay, he sells firing sheets, glass shards and all. He also sells one or two minor sketches like vials and all, but none of the more complex, important ones that you find on the sketcher upstairs. Going straight on through, You pass a number of guards. I think there's one standing behind you. Yep, there's always guards everywhere. This is a well-protected area. We'll continue on down here through a number of antechambers. If you go straight, you will continue going through mechanics and all. There's a couple more rooms with just mechanics, and then over here you have the pottery trade items. There's a kiln there and a potter's wheel. You take the sketches and all, and you have to make them on the potter's wheel, and you get the unfired, and then you have to put them in the kiln, and you have to fire them to do the pottery skills. Remember that EverQuest tried to be basically a virtual world simulator. It really did. It took its cues not only from D&D with the character classes and the combat and all, but the skills and everything that it had really took their cues and took their ideas behind it. I think a lot behind Ultima Online, which was the other big MMO at the time. If you turn right, you follow through this, past more and more clockwork guards, of course. Right just leads to an observation landing. Going to the left leads down and into an area, the audience chamber of King Ak'Anon himself. As you see here, the Clockwork King Ak'Anon. The story behind King Ak'Anon here is that the original king got tired of attending all these various functions and courtiers and having to meet people as part of his official duties, so he made this clockwork representative to do all of that. And basically he would say stuff like, it was programmed to say stuff like, "Hello, how are you? Pleasure to meet you. My, you're tall," that sort of thing, and nobody could really tell the difference. And after the real King Ak'Anon died, they kept him around because they decided that he was a good enough king to continue carrying on the role there. Now, something that my guildies would tell you, and something that was very strange, is for the first couple of years, when you would come down here and sing King Ak'Anon, there was a human here. Had King Ak'Anon over his head, but it was a generic human, a tiny little human that stood up to about the height right here. It was about as tall as King Ak'Anon's head, King Ak'Anon's neck here. You come around, there'd be this tiny little human standing here, and never did figure out exactly what that glitch was. Come on back this way, that leads back up. If you come through this door, past another well-guarded door here, you come into an area with a well-used rack and a Clockwork Torturer. As I've said, just like with that image, the emblem of Norrath that is upstairs on one of those floors, the gnomes have a bit of a rather dark feel to them. There's a dark undercurrent that runs through Ak'Anon here. You have to remember that the gnomes aren't the funny little harmless people that you might at first mistake them to be, as we will see further very shortly. Past the receptionist, and we will go on out here now. And then out here we will turn to the left. The walkway leads out to the final tower of this palace complex, and in there you will find a couple of Clockwork Tailors and a Clockwork Tanner that sell various tailoring patterns and stuff. So we're going to turn back. We are going to leave the palace area here, go back toward the shore, and we will see you when we arrive back into the passageway there. We are leaving the central castle behind and moving back into the main hallway again. We continue on deeper into it. You'll find the hallway passes through an area here. This is essentially the Warriors Guild. You have a passage that goes up underneath, so that quick access to both sides by the guild here. As you see, here's the main road. And the guild masters and the barracks are all down in here. So if you get any further down, let's see if we can hail him. Yep. Manic Compotleton says, "Greetings, young one. I am Manic Compotleton, High Watchman. Are you a new warrior or an experienced fighter?" So, as you said, this is the Fighters Guild down this way. And everything you can imagine, all the various trainers and everything will be on down this way. Merchants. And anything else you need as a fighter type. But that's not our bag, so we are going to continue on past, getting clearance as a member of the city would, and enter into the main cavern of Ak'Anon itself. You've seen it before. Right up there to the right is our path that leads up to the Library of Mechana Magica. Various merchants scattered around. You saw the tailor's loom. This right here is a forge. If you do metalworking and such, well, right here as you see the bellows and everything, this is the forge that you use. You see the Ak'Anon forge, and you would put whatever materials, the molds, the metals, and everything in there, hit combine, and it would hopefully create something like a weapon or a piece of armor or something like that. So right here is the Forge of Defiance. Pretty sure that there are various merchants within, armor and stuff, so you click on it. Chainmail coif, all this kind of stuff. And there's your molds for making things. Small hem molds, small belt sections, small mask, for all the various armor pieces you might want to have. Let us go back out. As I said, you've been to the Library of Mechana Magica over there enough times. We're going to go up this way. If you remember, this is how we went to the bank the last time. And we are going to go down there like we were going to the bank. There's also I think a jewelry shop off to that side as well. Come to the main clock. Right over here is the vault. Of course, with the bank and everything. I'm thinking this is a jeweler shop. Yes, a Clockwork Jeweler. My memory did not fail me. And another one in the back. So very good. And there are various other shops and things all scattered about. But that's not what I was looking for this time. I think we go straight, if I remember. There we go, yes. The Ak'Anon Zoo. So you see, Ak'Anon here has a wonder of wonders. We have a zoo where we keep various creatures on display for the entertainment and education of the members of our great city. We have a tiger. We have right over here a lesser minotaur. And you see all these are tombstones to us. And I'm trying to remember what the other one. Brown bear. Yes, indeed. And surprisingly, none of them are camped right now. I can remember being in the zoo many, many different times. And all of these creatures, especially the tiger and I think the brown bear, being camped by people who had jumped, basically ran and jumped from here, landed on the platform over there, and then would sit and camp and kill the creature in the zoo over and over and over again. And this right here is just a service entrance that leads down and takes you around in the tunnel in the trench, the moat that leads around. So there you go. That was something. That was quite something for the day, is that our home city has its own zoo within. Everything else down here is basically just more merchants and various various suppliers for the various trade skills and all. So we are going to travel back out of here, and we are going to go deeper into Ak'Anon, past more and more corpses. And yeah, as you see, we don't keep very good care. Our roads and paths tend to be a little bit of a challenge to go along. This right over here, if I'm remembering correctly, up these stairs, this should be the Cleric and Paladin Guild. I think this is Gem Chopper's Hall, perhaps. Ah, there we go. The Abbey of Deep Musing. That's what it is. And this is, as you see, the various merchants and all. There we are. Let's hail them and see who they are. Once again, getting the spam restrictions, and I'm not quite understanding that. Well, we didn't get one that time. What about you, Ione? Spam filter restrictions again. Like I said, if I remember correctly, these are your Paladin and your Cleric Guild people. Now, is it through here? No, that's just one of these walls around here. I'll see if I can find which one it is. Is it past these curtains? There we go. Step past those curtains there, and you find that there's a hole in the wall. And going down, up underneath the Abbey, you will find that you have entered the Thieves Guild, the Rogues Guild. Greetings there, Gnarlo. I am Weehu Tanboots, Assassin of Ak'Anon. Pride myself on being one of the few to train our younger prospects in the way of the rogue. So this is the Rogue/Assassins Guild down here, up underneath the Cleric and Paladin Guild. And like I said, accessible through that gap in the wall right here, through those curtains. Good to know it's there. Okay, we are going to travel back out again, leave the Abbey of Deep Musing behind, and go even further into the recesses of Ak'Anon here. So we go past more of these dangerous walks, sloping surfaces, and the rough areas. Down here is the scrapyard out across through yonder. You can travel along the actual river and lakes. Follow them down through the waterfalls there. But we are getting into the older, more worn out parts of the city now. And if I remember correctly, we should be getting close to a more, let's see, can I jump out here? Hello, come on, jump out. Come on, get me out of here. I have to look up. Come on, there we go. Gotta make sure you look up after you fall in. See the great rotating wheel that's as the water flows through and supplies much of the power to the city above. Be careful not to fall. As I said, there's Sanford Featherhead. Think of Sanford and Son. I'm assuming that's his son. But we are going to go over here, down the sloping hills. And we're getting into an area we want to be very careful about, because we aren't exactly welcome down here. Right over through there, down in these old abandoned mines. If you were to open that door, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to aggro anything that might not be very happy at my opening. Through that door, you'll find an abandoned mines full of things like gnome skeletons. And interspersed throughout the skeletons will be members of the Necromancer and Shadow Knight Guild. So yes, even the gnomes have their own dark side to them. Gnomes can be necros and shadow knights, and that's where their lair is, way down here at the very end of the trail, as it were, past the junkyards and past the worn out, forgotten parts of the old city. So we are going to go back up now, and that right there pretty much is your basic walking tour of Ak'Anon. I hope you have enjoyed it and found it a little bit informational. Next time we will go over to Kelethin and explore it. And try to show you in that confusing maze of tree houses exactly what can be found around there. So I am going to go upstairs to the Mechana Magica and buy me a few more spells, and we will see you next time. Thanks for coming along, and bye-bye.